Hey, how you doing? I'm Steve. Welcome to my channel. Continuing on in my best of lists of singers, today I'm going to go through my list of the top 10 best rock singers of the 80s. This was the decade where I immersed myself in music and I started playing guitar at 16. I was totally enamored with the rock star lifestyle presented by bands like Kiss and Van Halen. And I wanted it for myself. You know, sex, drugs. However, the drug of choice for me was alcohol and rock and roll. The early 80s dominated by bands like U2, Depeche Mode, and Duran Duran, at least where I lived. But again, the rock station in our area only played this kind of stuff. In my opinion, these bands are far from rock. Anyway, the first U2 album, War, it did have some cool songs on it, like Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and New Year's Day. I liked those songs, but I wasn't going to find any real rock and roll on the radio. I read all the music magazines, and I had local stores that I scoured weekly, trying to find bands I hadn't heard of, just trying to feed my hunger for that hard rock. And boy, did I find it. I found some awesome bands like the Scorpions, Dio, Def Leppard, and one of my absolute favorites,
Iron Maiden? Excellent!
All right, enough of that. Let's get into it. Now, this time I picked my top 11 based on their stage presence and their vocal ability in the studio as well as live. Yeah, you may have singers you think that should be on the list that I didn't include. That's cool. What I'm presenting is who I thought was the best at the time, and there were a ton of bands, and I'm human. I make mistakes. I might have forgot somebody. So I would love to hear who you thought was the best if I missed them. So let me know in the comments. There are affiliate links in the description for all of what I think are the best albums for these bands, as well as the gear that I use. And if you follow on those links, anything you buy, I might earn a small commission on it. It goes a long way to helping the channel, and I really appreciate it. Also, I've got brand new Rock's Not Dead merchandise. Links are in the description. Got t-shirts, hats, things like that. Pick one up and let the world know that you think Rock's not dead. 11. Janet Gardner of Vixen. Now, when this band came out, I thought they were awesome. Janet's vocals were heavenly, and well, so was the band. They could rock with the guys, and they were prettier. Well, the guys in Poison kind of gave them a run for the money, but nah, I think Vixen still wins. Anyway, when the band I was playing with took some time off, I got to work with a sound engineer who ran sound for a local up-and-coming band in Portland, Oregon, and they were opening for Vixen. So I got to be backstage during their concert. I had a great time with this. The ladies in the band were awesome. They sounded great. They performed great. It was just an awesome concert. And well, they're just as pretty in person as you see them in the pictures. Anyway, I think their first album, Vixen, I still think that was their best. 10. Sammy Hagar, Van Halen. Okay, I get it. Sammy's era is not everyone's cup of tea. His involvement completely changed the vibe and tone of the band. But in my opinion, and I've said this before, I think this allowed Eddie to mature musically. Now, here's another thing that might rub some of you the wrong way, or at least surprise you. Prior to joining Van Halen, I had one Sammy Hagar album, only one, and it was Danger Zone. And I really liked it. I listened to it all the time. I really dug that. But I really didn't dig the rest of his stuff. I mean, yeah, I Can't Drive 55 or, Fall in Love Again, stuff like that. Didn't speak to me. But when he joined Van Halen, I saw Eddie's writing and style push Sammy to new levels. That's when I figured out how good Sammy really was, and it was awesome. Now, I loved everything on 5150. I think it was Sammy's best album of Van Halen, and my favorite song on that album, Hot Summer Night. 9. Michael Sweet of Stryper. I discovered Stryper with the release of Soldiers Under Command, and I thought they were amazing. I wasn't raised in the church. I didn't get the meaning behind Christmas. I thought it was all about presents and stuff like that, and eating, And, well, I thought Easter was about some bunny running around leaving me candy. Michael's vocals were, well, angelic. You know, they were in the upper range, which is part of the rock genre then, and he could shred guitar with the best of them. I saw him in concert a few times and they were great. Now, they gave us 4 albums in the 80s, my favorite being Soldiers Under Command, and the song I think, which shows off Michael's voice the best, is Makes Me Want to Sing. I always wondered if he needed to see a doctor at that last note.
8.
Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. When I first heard Welcome to the Jungle, they were playing videos between our sets at one of our gigs in Boise, Idaho. The riff started, raw and raunchy, and Axl came in singing with grit and fire in his voice. I was so blown away, I went out and bought the album the very next day. Well, it was cassette tape, but I did get it the very next day. Now that's saying something, because when we were on the road, I was living off $100 a week, and most of it was paying my bar tab. Oh, the life of a wannabe rock star. Anyway, the whole album's kick-ass, and, you know, I wore the tape out. Axl's voice was perfect for the music, and he was, and is, he's quite the rock star. He would have been higher up on the list, but some of the antics he did, like showing up late or just outright canceling shows last minute, moved him down. But their best album, Appetite for Destruction.
7.
Sebastian Bach, Skid Row. The first song I heard of this band was I Remember You, and I was totally blown away. His range, his angst, his attitude, it all came through on every song. He has a great stage presence. I mean, the guy's like 6'3". It's kind of hard to miss him. Anyway, unfortunately, his time with Skid Row was, you know, which is a great band. It only lasted for 3 albums. And I have the first 2 albums, which is Skid Row and Slave to the Grind. I think the song that best shows his ability is Quicksand Jesus.
6.
David Lee Roth of Van Halen and his solo stuff. Now, we saw Dave and Van Halen split after the 1984 album, but he rocked the world until that time. And the 80s really were the heyday for Van Halen. So many great songs, and Dave continued in his standard fashion, able to deliver his brand of rock and showmanship. When he went solo, he continued and delivered some fantastic stuff. He picked up Steve Vai on guitar and Billy Sheehan on bass, and his band was just awesome. His first album, Eat 'Em and Smile, was kickin', and I absolutely love Yankee Rose, Shy Boy, and Tobacco Road. And the great songs continued on Skyscraper and the subsequent albums. All of this and his stage antics make him a great frontman. Now, I would tell you that I think the best one to grab on this, Eat 'Em and Smile. I love that album.
5.
Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden. Now, I discovered Iron Maiden with the Number of the Beast album, and I instantly fell in love with this band. They were one of my favorites still today. Probably the band I've seen more live than any other band. I see them all the time. Now, Bruce's vocals are amazing still. He's energetic and entertaining live. And I mean, there's nothing bad about the show or about their songs. Bruce is actually the 4th singer for Iron Maiden. Paul Di'Anno was the 3rd, and he was on the first 2 albums, which are great albums. But, you know, Bruce is a better singer. Now, I love almost everything they have done, and my favorite song on the Number of the Beast album is actually 22 Acacia Avenue. But my overall favorite song comes from the album Peace of Mind. It's called Still Life. And the album I tell you to grab, Peace of Mind.
4.
Jeff Tate, Queensryche. Another band hailing out of Seattle. I first heard their songs Queen of the Reich and Lady Wore Black off of their Queensryche EP on a local music show. And I thought his voice was amazing. His operatic style fit the metal sound so well, they instantly became one of my favorites. I love all of their albums with Jeff, but my favorite is Operation Mindcrime. It's so cool.
3.
Rob Halford, Judas Priest. Yeah, he was on my 70s list and he's here too. He's just that awesome. Now, they gave us 6 albums in the 80s, and it seemed like Rob's vocals just kept getting better and better. Screaming for Vengeance and British Steel are my favorite albums of this decade, and I listen to them, still do, all the time. My favorite song of this era is probably not a popular choice, but it was Locked In off the Turbo Lover album. But if I was going to tell you to grab an album, these guys, that's actually a hard choice. I'd actually tell you too. British Steel or Screaming of Vengeance. Great albums.
2.
In the shadow of night, I see the full moon rise, telling me what's in store. My heart started aching, my body started shaking, and I can't take no more.
David Coverdale of Whitesnake. Now, Whitesnake has been around since '78, but I hadn't paid any attention to them until I heard Still of the Night in 1987. That song smacked me in the face. Well, and Tawny Katan dancing around on the white Jaguars didn't hurt either. But, I mean, the song kicks ass, and David's vocals are just awesome. I think he's kind of reminiscent of Robert Plant, but he's got a fuller, more sultry, for lack of a better word, voice. And he's got a great range. Another band that quickly became one of my favorites, and, well, I picked up every album he put out. The 1989 release of Slip of the Tongue also had Guitar Master Steve Vai, and, well, that made that album my favorite by the band. Steve Vai is just amazing. Now, picking a favorite song here is hard because, like Iron Maiden, I pretty much love them all, but I would have to say my favorite songs by the band are Crying in the Rain, which was on 2 of the Whitesnake albums, and Judgment Day on Slip of the Tongue. So I would say get Slip of the Tongue. Can't go wrong with Steve Vai.
Honorable mentioned.
All right, I know I said there was 11, but there were so many in the 80s that I loved, and I had to throw in a couple honorable mentioned. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. Now, Steven was the top spot on my best of the 70s list. If you haven't watched that, link right up here. And there are so many great singers of the 80s. I didn't want to take up a spot, for a repeat, but I couldn't leave him out. It seems like his voice just gets better and better as time progressed, and their albums, Permanent Vacation and Pump, they were just awesome. Now, my favorite of the 2, Pump. Pat Benatar. While her first album was released in 1979, I didn't discover her until her Crimes of Passion album in 1980. How could such a big voice come out of such a small person? She had great songs, and she was awesome on stage. Now, cool story for me anyway. My then girlfriend, now wife, in early '91, I think it was, we went to Disneyland. We drove to California, went to go to Disneyland, we went to Knott's Berry Farms. We're at Knott's Berry Farms, we're at this little thing where you're making these jars, you're filling them with sand, different colored sands, you put faces on them and everything. My wife, well, girlfriend at the time, was doing that, and I looked to my right, and there's this woman standing there, and I recognized her, and it was Pat Benatar. And she was with her daughter, and my jaw must have been on the floor because she looked at me and she just smiled. I didn't say anything to her, and I think that was probably the right thing to do. I mean, we're out here in public, there's a lot of people, and I seemed to be the only one who recognized who she was. So that was kind of cool. I was 4 feet from Pat Benatar just hanging out. I couldn't talk the rest of the time we were making the stupid little Sandman things. Anyway, she's got a lot of great songs, and I think the one that demonstrates her vocals the best is Promises in the Dark off the Precious Time album.
1.
Steve Perry of Journey. All right, technically Steve Perry started playing with Journey in 1978 on the Infinity album, but I wasn't turned on to him until a girlfriend of mine convinced me to go to a Journey concert with her. Now, they weren't as hard rock as I was looking for, and, well, I just didn't really think I had any interest. But when we got to the concert, I was blown away. Their music's great. They were great performers, and Steve Perry's voice was this monster I couldn't believe it. It was coming out of this little guy. It was just so awesome. Now I'm including them because the album that I heard of theirs was Escape, and that was released in 1981. That was also the concert I went to. I saw them a couple times in concert. They were awesome, and well, didn't hurt that the girls outnumbered the guys like 3-1, which was pretty important to a teenager such as myself. Now, best album, I gotta say Escape. I thought that one was awesome, and that's the one I would check out. So there you have it, my top 10 list of the best rock singers of the 80s. What do you think? Do you agree? Did I miss someone? Am I not right in the head?
He wasn't right in the head.
As always, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. If you like content like this, consider subscribing. So until next time, don't forget, our favorite artists might fade away, but their music never dies. So rock's not dead. Take care.